I mean, it's some new $2.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the council work session meeting, City of Gulf Shores, 4 o'clock on March the 16th. Councilman Harris, first thing on the agenda is you, if you've got anything you need to talk about.
I have nothing to add to this agenda.
Thank you very much. For everybody, this is, for those of you who are not regular visitors, this is a discussion period where everything on our agenda tonight is scheduled to be on the agenda next Monday for vote and approval. So this is your opportunity to ask questions, provide input, anything you want to tell us about this agenda or anything else, you're welcome to share. So with that, we'll get started. John Walker, authorized loan, South State Bank.
Thank you, Mayor. As you may recall, a couple of weeks ago, the city had hired our financial consultant, Davenport and Company, to review the best options for obtaining the $17 million for the completion of the high school project. Davenport and Company acts as our fiduciary, looking out for our best interests. And so they conducted an analysis comparing a bank loan to a public bond issuance for that amount. After issuing the RFP for the bank loan and based on the results of that RFP, Davenport is recommending that we move forward with a loan from South State Bank at a fixed rate of 3.81% for 20 years. The Finance Committee has reviewed the analysis and supports this recommendation. So we are asking Council to authorize the issuance, sale, delivery, and payment of the city's $17.1 million principal amount general obligation school warrant, Series 2026C to South State Bank.
Thank you, John. Council, any questions or comments? Anybody in the audience, any thoughts you want to share? Thank you, John. Next is Lee Jones, authorized moratorium on development during comprehensive plan process. Thank you, Lee.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I have a brief presentation here, just an update on the comprehensive plan, as well as a request to suspend the acceptance of certain applications in community development. The comprehensive plan, as you know, you all approved funding for a comprehensive plan in the 2026 budget. This is a long-term policy document. It's usually a 20-year planning horizon on a comprehensive plan. It's looking citywide, typically at what we call a 30,000-foot view. So not really getting into details of certain specific locations in the city, but certainly a long-term policy document that illustrates the community's vision and the ways that the city can implement that vision. Some components of the comprehensive plan include a public engagement plan. That's a requirement of the RFP. Right now, we're in the process of selecting a consultant team to undergo the comprehensive planning process, but including the RFP is what's called a public engagement plan. So there will be a plan developed first and foremost in the process that will have public engagement throughout the estimated 12-month long process to complete the plan. There's also a citywide market study, again, just to test market realities for certain uses within the city that's going to inform land use recommendations in the plan. And there's an existing conditions and community profile that will be used kind of as a baseline for future projections and scenarios based on the community's vision for the growth of the city. So it will contain 6 core plan elements. Land use, we currently have a land use plan and a future land use map. I have a graphic of that at the end of this presentation. So what land uses do we expect to see in the future? Housing, what opportunities do we have for housing? Where is that housing to be located? And then the urban design and public realm. So streetscapes, streets, parks, public open spaces. Urban design is just kind of a fancy way of looking at the space in between buildings, like our public infrastructure, our public streets and parks. And then a multimodal mobility plan. We currently have a major street plan that's just focused on moving cars. We actually have included in this RFP a deeper dive, that's why it says detailed plan here on the slide, into a modal mobility plan. So we'll be looking, it'll get down to the level of gaps in sidewalks. Where do we have gaps? Where do we need to connect sidewalks, existing trails and trail width? So the multimodal plan will really be a very detailed component of the comp plan, while most of the rest of it will be more high level. Environmental resilience, again, looking at floodplain related issues, preservation of wetlands and sensitive areas will be covered in the plan, as well as economic development. We've heard a lot through the Vision 2025 and 2035 planning processes about incenting local businesses. How do we do that? And then what are our opportunities for economic development within the city? We are requesting the adoption of a resolution to suspend certain development applications during the process. This is necessary in order to allow the city and the consultant team to assess current conditions and project future needs. This will ensure that any new developments align with the community's long-term vision and goals. It's also necessary to evaluate the current infrastructure. We need to make sure that the infrastructure that's in place and moving forward is both measurable and sustainable, that we can handle the growth that we're going to see in the coming years. It'll give us the opportunity to conduct environmental assessments and develop strategies that will ensure that any new development mitigates its impact on the natural resources of our community. As I mentioned, the public engagement plan, it will also provide multiple opportunities and methods for residents and visitors alike to provide input on how they vision Gulf Shores changing over the next 20 years. It will also prevent any hasty decisions that could lead to negative outcomes. So we don't have, land is an asset here in our community. We have the Gulf on the south, where we can't grow to the east due to Orange Beach and our growth boundaries, as well as to the north with Foley, and to the west with Fort Morgan. So we really need to take advantage of the existing developable land that we have, and this comp plan will help us do that. So placing a pause on acceptance of certain applications will give us the time to get the vision laid out clearly so that we don't make any missteps along the way. So we are requesting a temporary pause on the acceptance of applications, rezonings in particular, anything that changes current entitlements. If you want to upzone your property, now we need to make sure that the infrastructure can support any upzonings. We need to make sure that any upzonings are in line with the community's vision. Also, pause on new planned unit development applications. There's some existing PUDs out there. This won't impact existing PUDs or amendments to those PUDs, but any new planned unit developments, because that planned unit developments are usually done in order to allow uses that aren't permitted by the underlying zoning or allow certain modifications to the underlying zoning. So we think it's important to not allow planned unit developments during this phase. And also conditional use permits for multifamily dwellings and townhouse uses. You all have approved text amendments in the recent past in commercial zoning districts in particular that make multifamily and townhouse uses a conditional use permit, approvable by CUP. And we feel like we've seen quite a few of those over the years, and we feel like placing a pause on those particular CUP applications that would allow multifamily intensities is it's worth not accepting those until we get the comp plan done, as well as major subdivisions that aren't located within PUDs that have an adopted master plan. Again, that's an infrastructure related issue, as well as R14, R15. A lot of folks have not been pleased with the results of those zoning districts. The comp plan will likely make some recommendations on how we can improve single family development. So pausing major subdivision applications we think is a good idea. The time frame of this pause, we're requesting 12 months. That's a typical comprehensive planning time frame. We hope to be finished with the comp plan within that 12 months, but we're also building into this resolution 2 opportunities for extensions for up to 6 months, for a total of 18 months for the planning period. We think that's enough time for us to get the comp plan completed. The city's most recent suspension on applications was done when we developed the multifamily and townhouse design standards for the zoning ordinance. You all placed a 6-month suspension on applications for site plans for multifamily and townhouses. That was back in 2022. So this is something that we have recommended in the past, that you all have approved in the past, and it's been very helpful to allow us the time in order to develop either the plans, the policies, or the regulations to implement the city's vision. Just to show you we're not in a boat on our own here, Fairhope, Orange Beach, and Foley have all recently gone through or are currently going through the comprehensive planning process. They also issued moratoriums. Fairhope had a 13-month total moratorium. I believe it was extended once, and Orange Beach had an 18-month moratorium. It was extended once recently, and then Foley had an 8-month suspension as well. Just to give you an idea of why this is important, this is our future land use map. This was done over 10 years ago. It's updated by the Planning Commission on a piecemeal basis as we get zone changes approved, in particular that are not in line with this plan. But this has the city, with 6 different kind of flavors or characters of development. We're much more complex than that. So we really need to update this plan. It's just one illustration of the need for updates for the land use component of the plans that we have adopted at this point. So staff recommendation is to approve the resolution to place a suspension on those certain applications for a 12-month period. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lee. Council, questions, comments?
Lee, since we now have a pre-zoning requirement for annexations, will this also pause annexations?
It will not. So pre-zonings in the zoning ordinance are different from zonings. They're tied to annexations, and any pre-zoning that's tied to an annexation would come in as council saw fit.
Have we ever done a community-wide moratorium like this?
Yes, we have. The most recent was for the multifamily design standards. It was a 6-month suspension. Prior to that, we had a suspension on R15 zoning district applications because we were modifying the standards for R15.
Council, anybody else? Audience, any questions or comments? If hearing nothing else, John, or Lee, thank you. Clint? Jade Consulting proposal.
Yes, I've got a professional services proposal from Jade Consulting here, an amount not to exceed $44,900. And so as you guys know, the West 4th Street Bridge has been out of service for a number of years now. And we had previously contracted with Jade Consulting to prepare plans to reopen the bridge to vehicular and pedestrian traffic as part of a larger project. And that project had been submitted for as part of several grant applications, but unfortunately none of those were successful. And so since that time, the city has received a fair amount of correspondence from several citizens that live in that area that are opposed to reopening the bridge to vehicular traffic. And so in light of that, we requested a proposal from Jade to provide construction documents for a pedestrian-only bridge. And so this proposal will include a full set of construction documents for the removal and replacement of the existing bridge with a prefab style pedestrian bridge. And this proposal includes the bridge approach, the hardscaping and some landscaping for this section from West 2nd Avenue to West 3rd Avenue. And staff recommends accepting the proposal from Jade, an amount not to exceed $44,900. And so just for everybody's reference, the 4th Street Bridge is located on the map here in the center in that little square. And this is a current picture from the south side. And so the conceptual drawing, the bridge would be something similar to this. And then the picture on the right there shows kind of a sketch of what we're looking at with sidewalks connecting it to the north and south. And then we've already got some preliminary sketches. So the bridge itself is 34 feet long. We're looking at a wood bridge with glue lamb stringers and wood handrails and some metal rail posts. And so as you can see right there, it's just over 16 foot outside to outside, so about 15.5 foot clear span. And so the total estimated cost of the project is $400,000, which we have budgeted in this year's budget, and that account listed there. And design expected to be complete in about 60 days after approval. And so we would bid as quickly as possible after that, so that we could start construction and get that wrapped up by the end of the year. And be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Clint. How does this add to or complete our multimodal thought processes for sidewalks and pedestrian access all the way from that to West Beach from 59?
Yes, and so that's what the original larger project, we were gonna, do the path on Windmill Ridge that was gonna connect down to this and then to First Avenue and then tie to the existing sidewalks and to the sidewalks along West Beach Boulevard. So this is still a piece of that puzzle, and we would just have to do the connections in future projects.
And we're continuing to apply for grants to complete that.
Yes.
All the way from 59 back down to Beach.
Yes, and we're gonna look at several grants as they come along, whether it's TAP grants or anything that we can find to try to keep extending that.
Any other questions, council comments?
I
Yes.
do. Two comments. One, I know when we initially, this bridge has been, on the priority list for quite some time and was initially used for, or thought to continue vehicular traffic as well as pedestrian, and that was the design process. Well, as we went through this process and having challenges with funding for this particular project, we did realize that the vehicular traffic wasn't necessary. We consulted our traffic consultant, Skipper, and this was not seen as a major thoroughfare necessary for car traffic. So that allowed us to move forward with the pedestrian design. So I just want to make sure everybody realized we did consider whether or not we needed car traffic there or not. Unfortunately, if you're going north across that bridge and hitting Windmill, it bottlenecks there anyway. So having cars go across that bridge probably wasn't a functional outlet anyway. And I think our traffic consultant confirmed that. The second comment I'd like, that the design of that bridge, I'm fine with. However, I would love us to consider, since this is made predominantly going to be, or only going to be, a pedestrian path, maybe punching out on the east and west side of that bridge for maybe a place for people to maybe sit on that bridge or fish from that bridge, make it more a focal point rather than just a passage over water. I think it can be a real, park type aesthetic if we enhance the design of that bridge a little more with having areas to sit on both the east and west and possibly fish or just relax and, have pedestrians, be able to look over the water. So I would like us to consider that in the design process as well, rather than having kind of this very functional looking bridge and maybe enhance it a little bit. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason. Any other council questions? Anybody in the audience? Nobody? Thank you, Clint. Toby, you got a couple of things for us?
I do, yes, sir. I've got 2 board reappointments for the Public Park and Recreation Board, reappointing Andrew Hart and Chad Green to serve a full term of 6 years. Both have previously been appointed, but were appointed to fill the unexpired term of other members. So this will give them the opportunity to actually serve a full term this time. And these terms will end in March 28th, 2032. once they are reappointed. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Toby. Council, anybody, any questions or comments? Thank you, Toby.
Yes,
Blake?
sir.
Thank you, Mayor. We've got a very exciting opportunity to bring to you tonight in partnership with our airport authority and our partners with Baldwin EMC. What we're bringing you tonight is an opportunity to apply for a Growing Alabama Tax Credit Grant. I'll run through real quickly what we're wanting to do with this money and then summarize the actual grant application ask and then give Jesse an opportunity to address you as well. As you know, as a community, we have very limited opportunities for true industrial economic development, just because of our tourism base and because of the proximity to all the various areas of water and trying to protect who we are as a community. We don't go after large industrial type economic development projects. One sector that we have kind of identified as an opportunity over the last decade has been aerospace. Trying to partner with the airport and look at some of the things that are happening around us, both in Pensacola and in Mobile in the aerospace sector. We do think that there's an opportunity there to grow some true non-tourism jobs through trying to enhance our airport and trying to attract specifically maintenance, repair, and overhaul operators. So if you think of Saunders Yacht Works, for instance, they're basically a maintenance, repair, and overhaul facility for large fishing vessels, yachts, boats, that thing. So think of that on the aviation side. That's essentially what we're trying to attract on the aerospace and aviation side. Our airport has been evaluated by numerous MRO operators over the last decade. Unfortunately, we've not won any of those projects. And most recently, we had a mid-scale MRO facility who evaluated our airport for a project that was going to generate about 200 jobs and bring in about $35 million in private investment. Unfortunately, that project went to Northwest Florida. And one of the key considerations of why they did not choose Gulf Shores was because Northwest Florida offered a shovel-ready site. It had all the utilities there, had all of the drainage worked out, and specifically had the aircraft apron already in place. So due to the increased cost of constructing that apron and the time frame to get the site up to speed, they had a shovel-ready opportunity in Northwest Florida and took it. So with this project, what we're hoping to do is to alleviate that hurdle from the equation when people are looking at our airport for those same types of opportunities. So what we're proposing is that we would improve about 10 acres of property along the airport. This site has always kind of been earmarked and looked at as an MRO site. And so we want to use this, the Growing Alabama Tax Credit funds to construct about 121,500 square foot concrete apron on this site, do all of the any kind of fill, any kind of other site work that we need to do on the site to truly get a shovel-ready pad ready for the buildings on the site and associated airport side improvements to connect to the taxiways to truly create a site that would be comparable to the one in Northwest Florida that we lost the project to. What this would do is again, take us from being a conceptual site that MRO operators can look at to truly having a shovel-ready asset that we can market along with the airport and some of our other partners to try to aggressively go after either two mid-scale projects. What you see on the screen is two good-sized projects that could share this apron, or this could be a combined facility for one large MRO operation. This funding is available through the Growing Alabama Tax Credit Program. And what that is, it gives utility companies and other large corporations in the state, like Baldwin EMC, who have a large tax liability, the ability to offset 50% of that liability by giving it to economic development organizations like the city. And the purpose of it is to accelerate site readiness, to do site prep, to create shovel-ready sites within the state and enhance infrastructure to support industrial economic development. So with Baldwin EMC, Lee Johnson brought this to Jesse and I a few weeks ago. and said, hey, we've got this opportunity. I think we can get the Baldwin EMC board on board with this project. And so they currently have a $4.7 million liability to the state through their utility license tax. And so what they are proposing and what Baldwin EMC's board has already authorized and voted in favor of is to allocate their $2.3 million that they have available this year to the city of Gulf Shores and ultimately to the airport authority for this project. So they've already voted in favor of it. Their board has, they're on board. And so where we are now is finishing up the grant application. We have a deadline of April 3rd to get that turned in to the state. And then the Department of Commerce is who actually manages this program. They will evaluate all of the applications. So this is a competitive process. We're not guaranteed to get this project or to get this grant, but we feel very strongly with having Baldwin EMC on board, their vote already in place, and initial conversations that we've had with the Department of Commerce that we're going to be in a very strong position with this application. So we'll turn that in. They'll evaluate anything in April and May, and then by June, it's a pretty quick turnaround. We should have an answer on whether we receive this or not. So our recommendation is that you will authorize the city and airport authority to apply for the $2.3 million Growing Alabama Tax Credit grant. Again, to specifically to improve this 10 acres of property and construct the concrete apron to support a MRO facility. If the grant is awarded, the airport authority has already voted and agreed that they will fund the soft costs and any project management fees. So there will be no expected out-of-pocket costs for the city. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jesse to make a few comments.
Blake, you've said it pretty well. Mayor, Council, yeah, this is a great opportunity we have in front of us. Really can't understate it that, a maintenance repair overhaul facility really differentiates itself from other maintenance performed at the airport because many aircraft have they have to have a high level of requirement for facilities to perform maintenance for them, like Cessna, Textron, those types of manufacturers, and having this available really serves as a catalyst to bring those types of opportunities here to Gulf Shores. And so the airport authority has supported it, and I would appreciate your support too, and really exciting.
Thank you, Blake. Jesse, appreciate it. Council, any questions or comments? Anybody in the audience, anything on this subject? Thank you, guys. Shayna? Got something for us related to C-Spire, Biz Service Agreement.
Oh, okay. I thought Lee raised his hand.
He's already done his job.
Okay. My presentation.
You pulling it up?
It's not up. Okay. Hi. So we're going to wing it. So not before you, but somewhere in the agenda is the proposal to enter to a 3-year agreement with C-Spire. And that is to upgrade our current on-premise call manager telephone system. This system that we currently have has been in place since, thank you, since 2010. Thank you, Grant. And so we're kind of overdue for an upgrade. The big benefit in this is that this is going from on-prem, meaning equipment, hardware, that kind of thing, with the rising price of technology and equipment right now. Moving to an online hosted version is going to save us a lot of money in having to replace that equipment. Second, we are currently still with Brightspeed Services, which still utilizes the old copper telephone lines for service. So this would bring us into a more of a hosted managed and away from those copper lines. Brightspeed business in our area is not quite ready to change. So that the copper is still causing some service issues. We have some outages, so this is going to help mitigate that. Along with this solution are also 3 integrated systems. One is called Red Sky. And what Red Sky is the E911 response and location services. Any directory number within our system that calls Baldwin Central, this gives us a more accurate measure of where that call is coming from. The second is called Informacast. That is what our public safety currently uses. It is a mass notification. Our police and fire use it now to deploy SWAT team, dive team, that kind of thing. So that is incorporated. And then iMagical, which will incorporate network fax solution. We do still have some court, police, and HR documents that legally have to be faxed, so we can't quite get away from fax just yet. And then also the iMagical will allow us to have some reporting and analytics on call traffic, call volume, that kind of thing that we currently don't have with our system. The overall 3-year agreement is a total of $113,089.49. That is for the WebEx call licensing plus the 3 other integrated systems. Year 1 cost is a third of those licensing fees, but also an additional $15,048.10 that will be billed monthly for our telephone services for all of our directory numbers, and then an additional $13,882.66. That is to replace some outdated telephone handsets that are not quite compatible with this new system since they're a little bit older. So total year 1 costs come to $66,627.26. IT does have $120,000 already approved in our fiscal 2026 budget. So the $66,000 comes in way under that. So we're looking good on that front. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Shana.
Thank you.
Well done, given the limitation.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Council, any questions or comments?
I just had one. As I was looking through the monthly usage cost per location, there's a significant number of locations, and there were a handful in the 3-digit range, and I'm assuming that's because there are a seriously higher number of ports at those locations. like
Correct.
Public
Yes, sir.
Workshop,
Yep,
City
that's
Hall.
exactly. It's kind of based on the number of phones that are at that location. And then included in that is, if there's an elevator at the location, anything like that. So yes, you're exactly right.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience, any questions or comments? Shana, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Shelby, you got a couple of things for us.
Yes, sir. Good evening. The first of the 2 is going to be a request to surplus and auction off a 2022 Freightliner knuckle boom truck from our Public Works Department and a 2015 Rosenbauer fire truck. This is formerly known as Engine 7 from the fire department. If approved next Monday, those trucks will be available on govdeals.com for 2 weeks following next Monday's council. And I'll be happy to answer any
And
questions.
am I correct? There's no need to replace these. Right now, they've already been replaced. These are just true surplus.
Yes, sir. Both of these were already going to be in rotation to be surplus out this year. Replacements have already been received for the knuckle boom truck and ordered for the fire truck.
Thank you, Shelby. Any other questions for Shelby on this one? Audience, anybody? One more?
Okay. This is to authorize the council to allow us to get 2 new city credit cards. One is for the Assistant Director Recreation position, the other is for our Communications Manager position. Both of these cards will have $4,000 limits, and there will be no implication to the overall city credit card limit of $150,000.
Thank you, Shelby. Any questions for Shelby on this from anybody? Thanks, Shelby.
Thank you.
Scott, here we go. Tree ordinance.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'll be presenting for discussion this afternoon the tree protection ordinance. Before I begin, I just wanted to point out that displayed this slide last week, just to let everyone know that we would be discussing this, inviting comment from anyone interested. As of this afternoon, I've not received any emails or phone calls. That's not to say I'm not willing to continue to receive comments or questions, but I just want to let you know that so far I've not received any. So Gulf Shores has had some form of a tree protection ordinance for about 26 years now, so it's clearly a living document. It's been revised and amended multiple times, and we're going to talk about revising it again. In fact, this is really a full rewrite of the ordinance. We just kind of went top to bottom. We used a lot of the existing language, but made some modifications, and I'll go through those. So why do we have a tree protection ordinance? I think most of us agree that Gulf Shores is proud and protective of its environment and environmental resources. So this is from the ordinance itself that we do want to preserve the existing character of the city, which is made up of the existing groves of mature trees. Trees have numerous environmental and public health benefits, including noise and air pollution reduction. Trees prevent soil erosion. They protect and enhance the aesthetic quality. So trees are pretty, and that's a positive thing. And lastly, number 5 is they added the mature trees enhance new developments and provide a buffering both sound and light and privacy, which increase property values. Like I said, the benefits of trees are multitude, and I'm happy to spend time on each one of these if you'd like me to. I will point out 2 of the ones that I think sometimes get looked over but are very important. One is the reduction in urban temperatures, or what's called the urban heat island effect. It sounds simple when you say it out loud, but that's the idea that the local temperature within a city or built up area is going to be higher than in the rural or less developed area. I think most of us who walked out in the woods or even out in an open area that doesn't have pavement and rooftops, it's just cooler. Trees offer a significant benefit in lowering that urban heat island effect. Another benefit that's a common topic of discussion, I know Councilman Garris, you've mentioned this along with others lots of times, is the benefit to stormwater, where that stormwater goes or how it acts. That quote on the bottom left, the analogy is that trees act like umbrellas and they also act like funnels. So they capture and intercept a lot of water that's falling from the sky. They hold on to it, allow it to evaporate back out. They also funnel it down directly into the ground instead of running off elsewhere. So what is a protected or a heritage tree? This definition is not proposing to change from what it has been for some time now, but all tree species with a diameter at breast height, DBH, which is a standard industry measurement of trees, a DBH of 12 inches or more is a protected tree, and a tree with a DBH of 30 inches or more is a heritage tree, with some exceptions. We do provide extra protection to our live oaks and sand live oaks. So live oak or sand live oak of 6 inches or more in diameter is considered protected, and one of 24 inches or more is considered heritage. In addition to the proposed ordinance is sand live oak clusters. So sand live oaks have a kind of a distinctive development. They kind of propagate sometimes in the result of damage, sometimes like a fire damage. They will grow back up in clusters. We took this definition from a scientific paper that defined a sand live oak cluster as 5 or more within 10 feet. And we set the average DBH of that cluster at 4 inches, creates it a protected status, and 12 inches heritage status. So that's kind of a new change in this proposed ordinance. That picture on the right is a live oak, sand live oak cluster. I do want to point out, if you see that orange construction fencing, that's what we consider part of the tree protection zone. We talk about that later. What is not protected regardless of size? So there's a list of invasive species. These are not protected as big as they can be. Picture on the right is what we call a popcorn tree or a Chinese tallow. It's one of the more invasive species of trees that we see in the southeast. And there's a list more. That list also includes any other invasive species that we identify just in case something new pops up or something we didn't consider. I would go as far as saying that we would encourage the removal of invasive species. So if someone has a popcorn tree in their yard, feel free to remove it. Tree removal permits are going to be required, or they are today, but they will continue to be required whenever a protected tree may be removed or even damaged. And this could range from you have a single tree in your yard that you want to cut down all the way through, building a commercial development or a new subdivision. Usually for the bigger projects, like a commercial project, we'll do it in conjunction with the overall site plan. But we do have individual standalone permit applications for like that individual tree for a homeowner. The general rule for replacement or remediation. So replacement is when trees get physically replanted on the site. Remediation is when, for whatever reason, you cannot replant on site. That is when you may pay a remediation fee into our tree and landscaping fund so they can be planted elsewhere. But the general rule is the total DBH or total inches of tree that are being removed must be replaced or remediated. So if there's an 8-inch live oak on the property that's going to be removed, then 8 inches of replacement tree has to either be replanted or remediated. One of the changes proposed in this ordinance before you are that pine trees may be replaced or remediated at a 1-to-1 ratio. So one single pine tree may be replaced by another replacement tree, as opposed to the total sum of the diameter, the DBH inches. Replacement and remediation is not required for several things, such as a diseased and dying tree, a dangerous tree that may fall, or one that may create an unsafe vision clearance at like an intersection or something. This is not saying they don't need a permit. This is just saying they may not need to be replaced or remediated. We still need the permits to be pulled, but they may be able to be removed and not further replacement or remediation. Replacement trees, we have a preferred list that I'll go over in just a moment. The general rule today is they must be at least 3 inches DBH or 12 feet tall. One of the changes we're proposing is we've noticed just different times of the year or for various reasons, 3-inch tree that's 12 foot tall is just simply unavailable locally. So we have allowed, if you can prove that you just can't find them locally, the city arborist can authorize down to 2.5-inch DBH or 10 feet in height. Another proposed change with this new ordinance is for single family. So if you need to replace a tree on site, you can go down to a 2-inch and 10-foot tree, which kind of opens up a little more opportunity to purchase the trees if you'd like to. Our preferred trees are various oaks, magnolia, cypress, and then again, we allow for other native species. City arborists will look at that if you want to suggest like a maple or something like that, that assuming it's an appropriate location, the city arborist can approve those as well. That image on the right side of the screen is a willow oak. So we have sections for specific types of development. This is similar to what the current ordinance says, but I think it's defined a little easier to understand. The first is commercial or multifamily non-residential, so pretty much all commercial developments, including multifamily. Heritage trees may be removed when they're within the footprint of the building. Or this is a new addition, actively causing damage. I know the council's seen a few times that an appeal may be because they're encroaching into the foundation or something like that, potentially messing up the walkway. Current ordinance doesn't really accommodate for that, so the proposed ordinance does. I did put this on the slide, but generally the language is you must prove that you've done everything you can to save that tree. So if it means you could shift your building a little one direction or the other, staff does have the ability to reduce setbacks somewhat to help save that tree. So we're going to do everything we can to save the tree, but we understand sometimes it's just not possible. So protected trees may be removed when they're within the footprint. And again, that actively causing damage language. So if it's a protected tree causing damage, they may be removed.
Define that you've got replacement and without replacement there. Define what that means within the principal building. What is that? What do you mean by replacement?
Yes, sir. So if a heritage tree does need to be removed, it'll need to be replaced or remediated. So you have a 8-inch live oak on site and it needs to be removed. Well, let's say like a 12-inch live oak on site needs to be removed. It will need to be replaced or remediated there on site. The other options, they can be removed without the replacement.
Replaced with the total DBH that's
Yes, sir.
gone.
Total
Okay.
DBH. Yes, sir. Well, unless it's a pine.
Yep.
This next specific type of development, this is a new addition. So I should have started with the reason we're bringing this to the council is we are trying to, we've seen a lot of trees lost from large residential developments. And the current ordinance does not give a lot of protection there. We also see it seems sometimes heavy-handed or difficult for individual homeowner lots. So that's part of the reason for the proposal before you today. New residential subdivisions are defined in the proposed ordinance, and the allowance for trees is as follows. So heritage trees may only be removed if all efforts have been demonstrated to save the tree. And that can include reconfiguration of lots, reconfiguration of street layout, larger lots. It encourages the use of conservation subdivisions, plan unit developments, which offer more flexibility. And if all that happens and you still can't save the heritage tree, the DBH of that tree must be replaced on the site. So whether an open space or buffer or wherever that is. So that's for heritage trees. Protected trees may only be removed within the footprint of proposed infrastructure. So within that street right-of-way, typically about 50 feet in a residential subdivision, within stormwater facilities like a detention pond, and within 10 feet either side of utilities. So like your sewer water lines, they can clear any trees that may be over those. And that's without replacement. Next development type, the next two are single-family houses and duplexes. So a new single-family house would be one pulling a new permit for a brand-new house. Again, the heritage tree may be removed once you've demonstrated that all reasonable efforts have been made to preserve it. So sometimes if you just flip or mirror the house design and move the driveway from one side to the other, you can save a tree. So you may be required to do that. Again, you may be able to encroach a little bit into setbacks to save trees. So we're going to look at that. And then protected trees may be removed without replacement within 10 feet of the footprint of site improvement. So this is going to include accessory structures or pools. That's a new addition, I believe. Currently, it's just within the footprint. So this makes it a little easier on the homeowners or the home builders, or if they're interfering with utilities. There's also language to allow up to 50% of the canopy cover to be removed from rear yards. The idea here is to make it easier. So if you needed a pool or a playground or just an open area for, to recreate. And the next development type is existing single family. So, you're already living in your home, you want to add on, or you just have a potential issue with a tree. So heritage trees may be removed within 10 feet of the house. Again, that's a change from previously, I believe it was just footprint, or maybe 5 feet. They may be removed within 5 feet of accessory improvements. Again, an accessory structure like a shed or a pool. Or again, that language actively causing damage. So you got a tree 20 years ago, it was fine. Now it's growing under the foundation or pushing up your walkway. That can be removed under the new language. Protected trees may be removed within 10 feet of the house, 10 feet of accessory improvements, and again, the 50% tree canopy in the rear yard. Another noticeable change to the proposed language is the creation of a tree protection board. So the tree protection board will hear and decide upon appeals based on this ordinance. Right now, it goes to city council. The tree protection board would be composed of the Board of Zoning Adjustment. The BZA is already well equipped and experienced in hearing appeals. They hear all appeals from the zoning ordinance or administrative appeals from the zoning officer. So we feel like this would be a better place to hear the appeals. Our hope is with some of the changes, there's far fewer appeals now, but we realize they still may happen. So that's the purpose of the tree protection board. Another change is just in the enforcement and penalty section. The fine amount currently today is $1,000. We are proposing lowering that to $500. But one of the key changes is whenever a protected tree is removed improperly without a permit, we still will require a permit to be applied for, and any required replacement or remediation occur. The fine's important. We need that to discourage people from violating the rules, but the point of the tree protection is to get those, to protect the trees, of course, and to not get them replaced or remediated. So if we can assure that, the fine amount we feel comfortable lowering it a little bit. Lastly, and this is not new, but I just wanted to focus on the Tree Protection and Landscaping Fund. So it's an account where remediation fees are deposited and any fines that we collect are deposited. And it's used expressly for the replacement of trees. We're not using it for other little projects or anything, not to pay me, unfortunately, but it is for planting trees. A great project we recently did a few months ago are the new willow oaks planted in Johnny Sims Park, about 45 new willow oaks that'll grow and create some shade around the perimeter of the park and the sidewalk around it. With that, I'm happy to attempt to answer any questions, and if I can't, I will write them down and find an answer for you.
Thank you, Scott. Council, questions, comments? It's been in place for a long time, and this is not something, it's something that I think I particularly in this council have determined to be important, because when these big trees are taken down inappropriately in areas where they cannot be avoided, they have to be, but if they can be avoided, we save these trees and we will certainly have a more beautiful and substantiate. Some of these trees are hundreds of years old, and we have to replace one of those with a small tree. We'll never see it back to where it was. So this modification is reaction to the unintended consequences that when expanding upon this, which we've done, this council has done, then we have created some issues that we've had to address. So we've done that several times. We're back doing it again, and this will continue forward as we continue to try to protect some of the important assets of the landscaping of our city. But we're also well aware that sometimes that creates problems that we should avoid. So I'm just talking about the whys now. Council, any other comments that you want to make? Anybody in the audience, any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
Kevin Corcoran, 5175 County Road 6, and also own a number of commercial properties here in the city. First of all, kudos to the planning group that put this together. There's a lot of really good changes in there. I see we're not going to be having some of these unnecessary appeals we've had in the past, because you've addressed that, and that was the purpose of those appeals, to bring things to your attention. I just want to share that the spirit of my comments today are merely to suggest points to consider before a vote. Section 7-152 defines damage to include over mulching or improper mulching. I think that's a tad harsh to cause out a fine if you over or improperly mulch a tree. I wouldn't even begin to know what that means, but maybe just look at that language, maybe one suggestion. Another point is that pines and palms are considered protected trees, but they're not acceptable as replacement trees. So I have trouble, I struggle with that logic if they're to be protected, but they don't count if you want to replace with those kind of trees. Section 7-155, 3A calls for a replacement of equal DBH replacement with the exception of pine trees, which, as Scott pointed out, is a direct 1-to-1 tree ratio. I would suggest that if you continue to protect palm trees, that they be held to that same 1-to-1 ratio instead of having to plant multiple trees for the removal of one palm. I think it would be a great idea if that fell into that 1-to-1 ratio. Maybe it does and I missed it, but I didn't see that. Just want to point out the financial impact of tree replacement. In order to remove one 20-inch DBH protected tree would require 7 3-inch by 12-foot high trees. I solicited some quotes for that, and I was told each tree would be somewhere in the range of $1,000 to $1,200 installed. And when you add that to probably a $2,500 removal fee, you may be looking at $10,000 cost to a property owner to remove one 20-inch tree. I just think that deserves additional consideration as well. And finally, I'd like to suggest that you give consideration to existing trees and density on a property. I don't see where that's taken into account anywhere. Homeowners and property owners are expected to get a tree survey identifying every tree. I have a neighbor who recently tried to get some trees removed on his 1.5 acre site and was denied the ability without what he considered to be some very limiting possibilities. This neighbor has well over 100 trees on his 1.5 acre site, wanted to remove some and was told no. I mean, 100 trees on one lot, that equals 30 or 40, unfortunately, Aventura lots. I think there's be some consideration. If you already have an excessive amount of density of trees on your property and you want to remove a few, I think that should be considered if you're already doing your fair share before you go and impose what may be as much as a $10,000 imposition on somebody to remove a tree that they'd like to remove on their property. So just points for consideration. I applaud the staff for what they've done and for y'all for your diligence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corcoran. All good comments. Anybody else on this subject? Scott, thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Grant, you've got several for us. So I'm just turn you loose.
Okay. What goes well with trees? Parks. So what exciting thing to bring to your attention and to the public's attention tonight is the opportunity to replace our beloved Kids Park. For those of you like me who have been here for 30-something years, you'll recall that back in 1996, we had a community build project with a company called Leathers and Associates to build the Kids Park. And over the years, many generations of children have played on those Kids Park, and unfortunately, due to it all being a wooden structure in the ground, it has now gotten to the point where it is rotting. Back in 2014, we actually had a research and some inspection of the park, and it was noted at that time that it was due to be replaced. In 2018, we went through an envisioning process with our community and came up with some ideas for a replacement kids park. We brought that information to our recreation committee, and I think rightfully so. The concept at that time was to replace Kids Park with more of a prefab metal and plastic structure, a la great fun playground, but not necessarily keeping with the same charm and the same type of structure that we've had at Kids Park since 1996. And so we went back to the drawing board. We did some work to the Kids Park to make sure it was safe and continued to be usable. But we're now at a point where Kids Park is needing to be replaced. It is rotten to the point where we are going to start worrying about the safety of the park. So we have reached back out to Leathers and Associates. They were the original company that did the Kids Park, and they've been doing this around the country for many years, 50 years. And so on the screen are just some of the revised and newer types of Kids Park products that Leathers and Associates are able to design and help us build. And as you'll notice, they look very similar to our existing Kids Park. I think one of our committee members made a comment that if there's a structure like that's on the screen, they would go into the park and actually play with their grandchildren. And if it was more of just a plastic and metal playground, they would sit on the side and just watch their grandkids play. So that really resonated to us in our recreation department. And so these are the conceptual ideas of what a replacement Kids Park would look like. So what we are asking of the mayor and council tonight is to allow us to engage with Leathers and Associates to do a revised Kids Park plan. And that would be using public engagement, using general and special needs public survey, in-class assignment and outreach. We've already talked to the schools to allow us to go into the elementary school and let the children start to envision what a new playground could look like or might look like. Doing some community events to bring kids out to the park and talk through what they'd like to see, and some social media, of course. And we have a presentation or a proposal from Leathers and Associates for the first two phases of this plan. Phase one would be to review the goals and do some schematics and come up with a budget estimate. And then phase two would be to actually do CAD drawings, 3D color renderings, and some components in case we did want to look at doing some sponsorships or seeing a way for the community to get involved financially with this project. And so at this point, we'd like to recommend that the council allow us to enter into an agreement with Leathers and Associates for design services in the amount of $35,900. I think I have an extra zero there. That is not accurate. We do have $950,000 budgeted in this year in capital plan for this replacement. And the initial budget estimate that Leathers and Associates came up with
was rate about $930,000. This is not an inexpensive project, but we feel like the last 30 years that we got out of the existing kids park and the setting that this area in the city is in, it's tree canopied, it's shaded. Those will be elements that will continue to make sure that are part of this design moving forward. And look forward to this build project for the next 8 or 10 months. With that, I'd love to be able to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Grant. Council, questions? Just to confirm, I've asked you this before, but for this group, what we did last time was we built it ourselves. The community built it. That's not what we're planning this time, correct?
This is what Leathers is calling a hybrid build. The contractors will come in, they will, once we get a design, they will come in and they will order materials, they will come on site, they will do the majority of the construction. They will utilize some of our city employees from Parks and Rec Department and from Public Works to try to eliminate some of the overhead expense of the labor that they wouldn't have to bring in, and that'll allow more money to go back into the actual project. But this is not where a mom or a dad or a child will come in and actually pound nails or screw screws or be part of the physical construction. Now, we will make sure that the community is involved with adding to the project, whether it's additional time for children to put handprints on walls or paint elements or some type of involvement, but not with the actual construction. We feel like at this time in our community's life that would be a hard ask, and feel like that it's, I think, better for us to hire this out to the professionals and get this done. They can do this in 8 weeks once we get a plan and design in place and block this out. So our construction window would be August. We would try to wait till after the summer is over, and we would start construction toward the end of August and get this done in time for Thanksgiving. That's our plan.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any questions from the audience? Yes, please.
I haven't had any questions for you in weeks.
Well, now's a good time.
Yes. Is this going to be handicap accessible with
Absolutely.
special needs?
There will be aspects of this that will absolutely be. And that's part of the survey of the special needs parents, so that we can understand what would be good.
Good,
Yes.
because I think that's important for the community. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If you were involved last time, you will recognize that this was an extraordinary team-building exercise where all the community got together with our kids and we built that park. I don't think we can build it, given the sophistication that this will have. Building it and being safe for everybody is going to be much more appropriately done by professionals than what we did last time. But it was extraordinary to be part of and visit with the entire community as we did something for our kids, and the kids were there. It was an extraordinary event, and I hope this has elements of that again. Good.
Understood. Yes, sir.
Team building. So, okay, Grant. No other questions or comments? Thank you. Next.
Next is a franchise request from the Down Under Dive Shop. The Down Under Dive Shop is requesting use of our city's pool for individual and group scuba diving training sessions at the Bodenhammer Recreation Center. The rec center pool is really the only pool that I'm aware of that has a deep well that is suitable for scuba diving and scuba diving training. We work closely with the dive shop and have in the past. They also provide services to our police department, fire department, and our search and recovery teams with their diving. They've been a good partner with us in the past, and they do have a current business license with the city. So we're recommending that the council enter into a non-exclusive franchise with Down Under Dive Shop. The initial term would be for 10 months. We would do it for this calendar year, expiring at the end of December. And then we would give the option to renew for 2 additional 1-year terms if we mutually agree to it in writing 60 days prior to the term's expiration. Financial impact, the franchise fee is $250 application fee. They would give the city $10 per student per session, and they would pay that quarterly. And of course, there's an annual business license, which starts at $135. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
This would be, at times, it would not interfere with our public use of the pool.
Yes, sir. As you look through the franchise agreement, we've got real good language in there on how the time for the pool gets approved and gets worked through our program coordinators at the pool. It's during times of the year, times of the day, and times of the week that the deep end is not utilized And we've got a real good system in place to be able to work with this group for that.
Grant, council? Anybody in the audience, any questions or comments? Jeremy, I see you. Thank you.
Hi, Jeremy. I didn't know that was you sitting next to me.
Go ahead, Grant.
So
Yeah,
thank you
no.
for your partnership. And finally, we have a funding request before you from the Gulf Coast Arts Alliance. It's a little bit of background. The Gulf Coast Arts Alliance, the GCAA, and their working gallery, which is found within the Waterway Village, have provided a place for local artists to work and to display their art and to sell for more than 12 years. They've been part of that area, which is, as you know, a booming part of our community. They've been amazing partners to the city. They've helped advance the arts through our programs and through events. If you recall, we did a Art into Words program where the artists created a painting and then the theater produced a play that represented the painting, and they performed that, and then we auctioned off that painting for contributions to the arts, programs like that. But unfortunately, they have landed on some very challenging financial times, and they need city support in order to continue to keep their gallery open. So we've put together a similar exchange for services agreement as we have had in the past with the Arts Alliance, but in this case, we're recommending that in exchange for their service to our community that we fund them $12,000. And the exchange for the services that they would provide us is to continue to give us technical support, provide and supervise revolving visual and performing art exhibits, organize and produce art markets, provide free community art workshops, help public art maintenance support, and other mutually beneficial agreements that we work with them on. For instance, as they come into events in the Waterway Village District, bringing their art and plain art to the sidewalks, et cetera. I feel like it's really a big part of our program, and if we lose the gallery and we lose the Arts Alliance, we'd have a real hard time for our local artists to find a place to perform their work. There's $12,000 in public relations and advertising within the Recreation and Cultural Affairs budget that has been identified as can be made available for this funding. And I know Tommy Vogel is here from Gulf Coast Arts Alliance, and we've got others, and I'm happy to try to answer any question if I can.
Thank you, Grant. Council, any questions or comments?
I'm glad to see it. It's long overdue. Thank you.
Audience, questions, comments? I think it's a good part as we continue to expand and grow with parking and the pedestrian bridge and a lot of dynamic interest in that area of the waterway. I think it's a good, keeping that there is a good thing to have.
Yes, sir. And they provide a good service and support to the city. Have always done so, but in this matter now we can get much more specific into what that exchange will be.
Okay, we've got three more. You gonna do those?
I will, yes, sir. Laura's out, not well today. So we have before you three large group activity permit applications. The first is for the Love Our Locals, LOL Festival, which is scheduled to take place here April 10th through 12th of 2016. The request is to utilize the parking lot at Waterway Village for April 10th, 11th, and 12th. They would set up the festival April the 9th. And they would then dismantle the festival after the evening at 6 p.m. when it shuts down on Sunday, and be out of the parking lot on Sunday evening. So they have a very active and aggressive music schedule. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can see the different artists that are on the screen. Music on Friday starts at 12:30 and goes until 10 p.m. Saturday, 10 o'clock till 10 p.m. And then Sunday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. So before you is a site map plan for the Waterway Village parking lot. And as you can see, this is a completely controlled section. This is a ticketed event. Tickets are sold for this event. There's a stage for the artist to perform on. There are locations for crawfish tables, adult beverage and beverage operations and beverage sales. ADA parking is still on site. There are vendors that will be involved with some of their items to be sold and to participate in this. They have a bike valet location scheduled. They have parking arrangements with the church to the west, and they also have a shuttle program that they are standing up that will actually shuttle people from the east side of over by Meyer Park area, and then they'll roll across the old 59 and through the site, and then make loops back and forth. And then the Gulf Shores Church of Christ is also, as I mentioned, giving them opportunities for parking. So we've worked with the organizer, and other than we're still missing a certificate of insurance, which is not uncommon, and we're requesting that they provide us a list of their vendors no later than 10 days prior, which will allow the fire marshal and our revenue department to make sure business licenses and the food vendors are all properly permitted to have businesses at this festival. So our recommendation is to approve with those two contingencies, and I know we have a representative here from the festival, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Grant. Council, any questions, comments? By the audience, anything?
Yeah, come on.
Please, come on.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hood. I'm the owner and founder of the LOL Festival. First, I want to thank everyone for the time today. I do want to thank the City of Gulf Shores for continuing to be supportive in this manner, as this is our second year going into this festival. I'd like to also thank the Coastal Chamber for being a strategic partner as well. To look at those two items that are needed, I have just, for the record, have provided Laura Waldrop the certificate of insurance, emailed it to her, but I know she's out sick today, so no one's seen it. But I do encourage the community to support this festival, as it is a community festival. This festival was created to bring the community together, to represent our local musicians, our local businesses, our local nonprofits, and to just bring awareness of community together. In order to do this, we do need attendance, we need support, we need advertisement, we need sponsorship, because as we know, festivals aren't free for the organizer. So please support, continue to talk about LOL Festival. I am very much committed to this festival and what it can bring to the Gulf Coast area. It's all for Gulf Coast locals. We want to shop local, support and support one another. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth.
Got one more?
Yes, sir, I sure do. This is a request to, once again, for the second year, host the AVCA, which is the American Volleyball Coaches Association, Small College National Beach Volleyball Championship. This will be the weekend of April the 16th through the 19th at the main beach area. They'll be participating and competing from 6 a.m. until 7 p.m. We start the setup for this event back on April the 6th. There are 25 beach volleyball courts that are set up on the sand just south of the hangout. This is a free event. It's open to the public. There's no admission charge to come down and watch these athletes compete. These are Division II, Division III, and NAIA schools. There are 38 schools who will be competing this year for championships. It does not require us to close any roads. We are asking for part of the application to allow the use of the Durham lot for additional offsite parking, if we are able to work out a relationship with Mr. Durham to allow, because we know that parking in that area is very difficult at times, and particularly on these big weekends and spring break times. With us today is the Alabama Tourism, Alabama's Beaches, Sports and Events, and they are helping us with this event. They're actually the co-sponsors of this event and have done so in the last couple of years. We've had this presented to our departments within the city, and all have approved, and our recommendation to the council is to approve this application. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Grant. Council, questions? Audience, questions, comments? Anybody? Thank you, Grant.
Thank you.
You have one more?
Apparently I have one more.
Big say, somebody's got one more.
I was going a little too fast. So in conjunction with the AVCA National Beach Volleyball Championship, that's kind of why I forgot. So the Kathy DeBoer Heart of the Game. So I sure don't want to forget Kathy DeBoer. Kathy DeBoer, as you know, Mayor, was really the impetus of getting the NCAA to sponsor or to actually create the 90th championship sport for beach volleyball. And Kathy, there's a tournament that is now in her honor, and she'll be present. This is a one-day tournament on the beach at West Gulf Place. So the Saturday that the ABCA championship is taking place south of the hangout, 10 volleyball courts will be set up on the west side, and they will play this tournament. It's also a free event open to the public. Main purpose for the request for the application is they will have vendors on site, and so to have this application presented to council and approved is vital to the success of their operation. So again, it's just 10 courts set up. They'll be playing at that same time during the ABC National Championship as sort of a tribute to, if you will, Kathy DeBoer. They're setting up the courts just south of the beach safety complex, probably using our 6 courts that are always there, and then adding courts to the setup.
Is this an all-comer event? Anybody local that wants to participate?
You pre-register, but
I'm not talking about me.
I was gonna say, are you gonna play sand volleyball?
Sure, old guy, I know.
Yeah. No, it's as you know, Kathy is a fantastic lady, and this is a huge tribute and a great opportunity to tell her thanks.
I'm excited to be able to pay tribute to her, whatever we can do. Any questions, comments from anybody? Thank you, Grant.
Thank you.
And that does conclude everything on the agenda tonight. Is there anybody with anything they want to discuss? Yes, sir.
Michael, that's where I wasn't here a dozen years. I just want to thank everyone that's considering the moratorium to step back just for a little bit on development, reassess everything that we need as a community. Past couple of years have been a little harsh as far as things growing beyond our means. In the meantime, I would ask if you guys would think a bit harder on parking situations that we're getting. I know we try to make accommodations to get developments to fit okay, whether it's economic or space-wise. And I'm going to throw out a couple examples, and I don't mean to pick on these places by any means, just as an example. The Galway, for instance, had a reduction on parking requirements for them 2-3 years ago. They were supposed to keep their occupancy down and kind of reflect what the parking is. We're about 3 years downstream there. That parking issue still hasn't been addressed. And if you go there tomorrow for St. Patrick's Day, I will almost assure you, you'll find more than 45 people inside that restaurant. So if you are going to take something like that, perhaps some kind of a limit. You've got 6 months to figure it out, a year to figure it out, or figure out what the remedial action is going to be to pull it back if in fact it's not being followed. Another example would be the Embassy Suites. Got a lot of parking there, got a lot of need there, but apparently it's only valet parking, which you have to pay extra for, which is not required with the room. So 257 spaces potentially, but they're not really using them. So then it kind of snowballs out into the rest of the community, even though 335 was what they were required to have space-wise for the building. So now we have overnight parking where we shouldn't have overnight parking just because they park places. They're going to do something with the car. So I guess I'd ask if you have these kind of opportunities coming up, and Crystal Village was another one. I used to own at Ocean House for 4 years. I'm not sure how they're going to pull off 19 subcompact places, honestly. Very few people come down here for a week's stay with a Miata, Mazda, some small car. You're going to get a lot of pickup trucks. You're going to get vans. You're going to get some pretty good sized sedans. I had a Miata back then. It was tough to find a place to park when I was there. So making the accommodations, really take a hard look at what it does to the parking, because as the roads get bigger, we're going to get more cars. They got to go someplace once they get here. So appreciate all your efforts. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry I keep coming up here every week, but, and again, I appreciate last week I talked about getting the detour signs removed off of Second Avenue, and they did, I believe, yesterday. There's two more. One of the things I also said was the right turn off of Second on the 22nd. Really look at that, because we're driving traffic. We're teaching a pattern away from where the biggest businesses are. The second thing is the city, when we did close down Second, they created signage to help redirect people. And one of those signs is still on Second Avenue that's incorrectly now sending people that are trying to go to Tacky Jack's or Brewery or Acme or the Sloop off to the side. We could very simply take that sign down and turn off that turning signal that's directing people into the neighborhood.
Thank you, Ken. Noel's taking notes, I see.
Mayor, Council, just a few dates to share with you. I'd like to tell Grant I still have a scar on my finger from building that kids park 30 years ago. So but there's a lot of pride. When I take my grandchildren to that park, there's a lot of pride knowing that I played a small role. So if you can find a way for community involvement, I think that'd be incredible. And I think it helps us take better care of it as well. Wednesday, March 25th is our Farm to Table event at Gulf Shores High School. Tickets are available online. This is a combination of our hospitality group and our culinary arts department. They will curate food from that they've grown hydroponically within our greenhouses. You know, we're already supplying produce to our high school, lettuce and other vegetables for our veggie pizzas and things like that. The kids really go out of their way to come up with these recipes, and it's a great time. I'd like to put in a formal request for good weather on that date, if you would, please. Make a note of that. We'd love to have
Anybody
that.
up here that has those kind of connections.
Yeah, but it's a great event. It's a great event, and it celebrates what's going on at Gulf Shores High School. Saturday, March 28th, our junior city council will be holding their spring market in the parking lot at Waterway Village, and we encourage people to come visit there and vendors to participate. And last and not least, Stephanie Harrison just shared with me that the NBCT rankings, National Board Certified Teachers in Alabama, came out, and Gulf Shores ranks number 8 with school systems that have been doing this for decades. And we're very proud of that accomplishment. With all those we have in the queue, it's our goal to become the number 1 school system in the country for a percentage of teachers that have this very distinguished certificate. And we'd like to thank the Dolphin Foundation for all they do to make those tuitions possible for those teachers. So with that said, unless you have any questions about the schools, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin before he sits down? Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Suzanne, I'm a resident at Village Craft Farms. Just a shout out to the police department. All I saw was the announcement that came out, I think, on the city site about the incident where there were 6 guns seized from juveniles and young males, I assume, down at somewhere down, I assume, around the hangout. That, just looking at the picture, knowing that they were 6 guns taken off the street, and they were there for what reason, I think a disaster might have been averted. And I think, thank you.
Very proud of the work they've done so far. It's still going on. We got a long way to go. Got a long way to go, but we're continuing to watch. Francis Hope Jones, State Representative, you got anything for us?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Francis Hoke Jones, representing District 95, which is the south end of Baldwin County. We're going into our 23rd day of session, which will be tomorrow. The Constitution allows us to have 30 days. Takes 5 days to pass a bill, so if you've got anything on your mind, we're down to the wire. But I appreciate the honor to represent Gulf Shores and our other southern Baldwin County communities. If you need anything or you need to contact me, please don't hesitate to reach out. I think all of my information is with the city. So thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Anybody with anything? Council? Any suggestions? Is there a motion we adjourn? I'll just go ahead and ask. We stand adjourned. Thank you. We'll be voting on this stuff next Monday. We hope you'll come back.